Welcome to our first lesson in biology. To start with, we are going to answer the question, what is biology? So that is the first question that we are going to answer as the way of introducing the subject. So what is biology? So biology is simply the study of living organisms. And now when you talk of living organisms, we are talking of plants and animals. So that is what we are going to focus mainly. Now, under biology, there are different branches, or rather should I say biology has different branches. What are some of the branches that we are going to discuss under this one? So we have the first branch that we can look at called entomology. Entomology is the study of insects. So those people that study insects are called entomologists, and of course the branch is entomology. Then we have what we call botany. Okay, so botany is as a study of plants. Okay, then of course we have another one which is zoology, which is as a study of animals as branch of biology. The other one that we can look at is ecology, which is just a study of interaction of organisms with each other and with their non-living environment. Then we have biochemistry, which is a study of chemical reaction that occur in living organisms, or we can say the study of chemical reaction that occur at cellular level. This is what we call biochemistry. So these are some of the branches of biology. They are quite a number, but for the sake of our study, we are going to focus on these 5. Having looked at the branches of biology, and now since we are saying biology is a study of living organisms, in order for us to build or to understand, to give us the understanding that we need as we go on in the study, it's very important that we look at the characteristics of living organisms. Okay, so we need to look at the features that we can look at in terms of classifying organisms or an organism to qualify as a living organisms. Now, what are some of the characteristics? So to look at the characteristics, we are going to look at the mnemonic that is Mr. Graphic. That is the one that we are going to use to understand or to look at these characteristics, and each letter represents a characteristic. All right, let us start with the first one here, which is M, starting from this side, which is M. M is for movement. So all living organisms should be able to move. Then R, the first one, there are 2 R's you can see. The first one we can say reproduction. So all living organisms should be able to reproduce. We are going to discuss these soon. Then the other one that we can talk of is growth. Then the other one that is respiration. We have E for excretion, F for feeding or nutrition, I for irritability or sensitivity, and C for cells. Let us have a look at each of these in detail. So the first part is movement. Under movement, I should have mentioned that also you need to include locomotion. We are going to see the difference between these two. So movement is a process by which living organisms change its location and posture. So take note of these terms, location and posture, without external help, which means without help from any force. Then locomotion is the movement of an entire organism from one place to the other. Okay, so when we talk of movement, for example, plants can move, but they cannot locomote. Plant can move within the fixed position. They can change posture, maybe due to strong wind or something. But locomotion has to do with moving from one position to the other. So in other words, plants are able to move, but they cannot locomote. But animals are able to what? To do locomotion. The other one that we can look at is respiration. Respiration is a release of energy from food substances inside living cells. That is how we define respiration. Now you need to know that there are 2 types of respiration. That is these are aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. We are going to look at these one by one. So let us start with aerobic respiration. Now, aerobic respiration is a release of energy from food substances inside living cells in the presence of what? Oxygen. So what differentiates between these two are just the conditions that are involved. So in the presence of oxygen, that is what we call aerobic respiration. Then anaerobic respiration, simply the release of energy from food substances, but in this case in the absence of oxygen. So the condition is in the absence of oxygen. So you need to take note of this. Then the other characteristic that we can look at is growth. So all living organisms, they're able to grow. What is growth? Growth is a permanent increase in size, mass, number of cells, and complexity of an organism. That is the growth. Okay? Then we can talk of reproduction. I should mention that all living organisms should be able to reproduce. And of course, we are going to look at the different means in which they reproduce. So reproduction generally is just a process by which living organisms produce their young ones or offspring. In this case, there are two types of reproduction. We have one, sexual reproduction, and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, offspring are produced by the fusion of male and female gametes and are genetically different from their parents. We are going to understand this one as we look at genetics. Okay? Different ways in which the cells divide. Then, in asexual reproduction, offspring are produced from one parent without involving any gametes and are genetically identical to the parents and each other. So as well, this one we are going to understand it in depth as we go on. Then another characteristics of living organism is excretion. And what is excretion? It's just a removal of toxic metabolic waste from the cells of the body, such as urea, excess salt, excess water, and carbon dioxide. So plants, they are able to excrete, although the excretory product or waste differ from that of plants, and this is what we are going to look at as we look at excretion. Then of course we have nutrition. Nutrition is just a process by which living organisms obtain their food. That is the nutrition. And in this case, there are two types of nutrition. That is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is a type of nutrition where organisms make their own food. And of course, plants that feeds by this feeding method are called autotrophs. Example, we have plants. Then of course, let us look at the other type, which is heterotroph, which is that's a type of nutrition where an organism takes in food present in the body of others. And of course, I should mention that organisms that feed by this method are called heterotrophs. Example, we can talk of human beings. Then we have irritability or sensitivity. Okay, irritability. Irritability is just the ability to detect and respond to stimuli. And of course, the stimulus in this case is any change in the environment which cause the response from an organism. That is what we call stimuli. Stimuli, plural, stimulus, singular. Then all living organisms should have cells. So if it doesn't have cells, then it's not a living organism. Now, cells are basic fundamental units of living organisms. And in terms of cells, organisms can be unicellular or multicellular. Now, from the word uni, it means one. So there are organisms that have only one cell. For example, amoeba. Then multicellular, multi means a lot. There are organisms that have a lot of cells. For example, humans and plants. So these have a lot of cells and they're called multicellular. So all living organisms should have cells. Then now let us end by looking at metabolic reactions. What are metabolic reactions? Metabolic reaction we can say is just a sum of total chemical reaction that take place inside the living cells. There are two types of metabolic reactions, and these are anabolic and catabolic. So anabolic and catabolic are two metabolic reactions. Now what are these? Anabolic reaction is just a metabolic reaction where large and complex molecules are synthesized from smaller ones and the simple molecules. In other words, anabolic reaction involves building a large molecules from smaller ones. And of course, the process of photosynthesis is one of the process that we can talk of as the anabolic reaction, because it involves building from smaller molecules into large ones. Then catabolic or catabolic reaction is just the opposite of anabolic reaction. Now opposite is opposite in the sense that anabolic or catabolic reaction involves the breaking down of large molecules into simpler ones. So for example, glucose. Glucose during the process of respiration is broken down into energy and of course other products. So which means from glucose is broken down. But here in anabolic there's a building from smaller ones into large ones. I think that's a difference that you need to know. Alright, so I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and this is where we get to end. So please, if you're interested in the online lessons, this is the right time to start, especially if you're writing 2 subjects and more. This is the time to start because you have a lot of things to cover. Do not waste your time. Wasting your time is wasting your money. You might end up just losing your money. I mean, in terms of you benefit nothing at the end. What of if you fail after, all the subjects that you've entered because you never considered starting lessons early? So please, what I'm trying to say is that start lessons early. It might not be with me, but start lessons early. But if you are interested to join us, do call 0976 402563. Otherwise, see you in the next one.